Our guest today is Wayne English of Coventry, who's got a book out called Web Content RX. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Let's start out by you're telling me about the 3 key ways to get great content on the web.
Oh, sure. First thing is know who you're writing for, know what that person wants to read about, and then provide well-written material, generally text, but it could be video, but well-developed material that provides your audience with what they want to know or help them solve a problem or provide information to them about using something in ways that might not be obvious. But it's all about providing high-quality material to your audience. You do that and you'll be successful.
Okay.
And if you don't do that, people will go somewhere else and someone else will be successful.
One of the things that we're going to get into is social networking. Mm-hmm. You want to talk about that connection with
Sure.
the web, of course, the,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and getting good content on the web.
Well, social networking has made high-quality content even more important than it was on a website. Today, businesses are moving out to Facebook, and businesses are having blogs, and businesses are putting a great deal of information online, and this information has got to be well done. It needs to truly speak to the needs of the audience. It's particularly important if you're going to have a business site online or on, let's say, Facebook. The business site has business needs as well as being pretty and nice to look at. And if it doesn't meet the business needs, if it doesn't tell the reader what you can do for the reader, that website's not doing its job. You need to tell the reader specifically what you can do for them. Many people will say, well, let's say I'm a carpenter, rather than saying I can build you a garage, I can build you a house, I can redecorate your kitchen. Mm-hmm. You want to specifically tell people what you can do for them. That's important. That means everything. And many business sites don't do that. I see business sites all the time that really don't move the reader to more knowledge about what this business can do for them.
Well, there's a direct connection with, you know, just telling what your service is or your
Mm-hmm.
product and getting that word out to people who are in need of that service or
That's
product.
Right. Absolutely.
And maybe people go online to look for a carpenter,
That's
to use
right.
your example.
Mm-hmm.
But there's that other part about creating content that connects you with your audience or your potential mm-hmm. buyers who may not know they want that product.
That's right.
And I'm really curious about that part, because that seems to me to be, you know, the design of business and social networking now. And yet I wonder, why would a reader or a, you know, surfer on the web want to go and hear what a business has to say or read its blog?
Well, it happens when the person who's doing the reading is looking for a service. Until people have a need, they're not going to do the research. I'll give you an example. I needed some rugs work done at home, so I went online and I found a person who lived a few streets away from me. He'd been in business for 30 years, and he came over and ultimately did the job, and then came back a couple months later and did a couple $1,000 worth of rugs in one of our rooms. So this works, but it's all driven by the need of the person who's looking for your services. And when someone is looking for your services, you want your website designed and written in such a way that it answers their needs, telling them that you have whatever it takes to provide the services that they're looking for. So you might want to put some clients there. You might want to have some testimonials, mm-hmm. tell people how long you've been in business, and give people a comfort level. It's sort of like dating. Your first date, they may go to your website, they may go to LinkedIn to check you out, to look at your professional credentials, mm-hmm. they may read your blog. So by the time that your phone rings or you receive an email from these people, there's already a comfort level that's been established because of what the material you've put out in the world. And that works very well. It's very effective. Companies are doing this. Pepsi, I believe it was in 2010, they didn't advertise at the Super Bowl. They had a $20 million social networking campaign. So you can imagine the account executive waiting for the phone to ring to say Pepsi was going to advertise on the Super Bowl, and the phone never rang. So it's not a question of money, it's a question of where people feel they get the biggest return for the money they spend.
So they essentially converted their Super Bowl ad budget.
That's correct.
To a social networking push.
Yeah, and it was a lot of money. They'd spent $149 million in the previous 10 years, so they're about $15 million a year. So it wasn't that they didn't have the money. It was a decision they made to use social networking instead of.
And that is happening more now. I mean, you know, let's talk about Facebook a little bit. Facebook has been a very person-to-person kind of operation, and now even groups of friends are you know, emailing each other content, writing on walls, and asking, "Will you join my professional group on Facebook?"
Yes,
and
absolutely.
How do people feel about that? I mean, it's sort of, you know, it's mixing the waters a little bit.
They feel good about that. Facebook, last I knew, had 850 million subscribers. If they were a country, they'd be the third largest country on the planet. So it's out there. People are getting to the point now where if they say, I need to buy, let's say, a new car, they'll go to Facebook and ask their friends, I need to buy a new car. What experience are you having with your whatever? Is it a good car? Does it require a lot of repairs, or what's the gas mileage? And people tend to believe their friends before they believe advertising. In fact, it's not a tending at all. They definitely do by a wide percentage.
Well, word of mouth has always been the strongest.
That's right. And your friends, and your friends have no axe to grind. They're going to tell you the truth as they see it. So it's very effective. Many businesses are moving entire websites to Facebook. And you can actually do business on Facebook. It's not just a link to somewhere else. It's actually doing business. It's called S-commerce, as opposed to e-commerce, which might be something like Amazon.
So nobody feels that that's an encroachment on what has here to now been a sort of a social network, a sort of personal social network.
I think it's the next step in social networking where businesses are taking advantage of this. You can have a worldwide audience. I do that myself with, I have a blog, I have a couple of websites, I have a Facebook page and a Twitter page, and it's all of a piece, and that's how you get yourself out in the world. I'm also on LinkedIn. If someone wants to find my professional credentials, they can go to LinkedIn and read about me. And it's getting to the point now where if you don't have these tools, you might not be looked at as being a credible business. Certainly without a website, people will wonder why you don't have a website.
This might be a good time for you to hold up the book, because obviously if someone wanted to look for your blog, they would, if they just, you know, Googled the title, they would probably come there. Web Content RX.
Yeah, the book is doing well. It's a top 5 business title in leadership books. People are saying good things about it. It's been translated into German, I believe, one of the languages, and maybe more than one. I haven't heard from the publisher. So it's doing okay. People are saying good things about it. Yeah.
And we should say, we just, by way of description or brief description, it's kind of a toolbox for someone either starting out getting content on the web. It has advice about HTML, so it can be on one hand technical and precise, but it also talks about confusion about word usage and grammar tips, and one of the things that you talk about, and we can go into talking about blogging through this portal, but you talk about the credibility of a blogger. You talk about the value of good content, and it's not all about how well you can write. I mean, there's a lot of that, but it's also about the content behind it, which is always a huge function of good writing.